And I wrote this sketch like months and months and months ago, and it was before I realized that I can't be funny while I read a script, and I wrote a whole script, and I've just like kept it in my like idea pile for such a long time because I didn't know what to do with it, but I think it's relevant now, so I'm going to read it. And I fully read it to Saf, but it didn't record, and I think it works better if I have like an audience. I'm going to start, and then
Audience is present.
yeah, we have a peanut gallery, so that's great. And feel free to heckle me at any point.
Boo.
Thank you, Sav. That was very helpful.
Yeah,
Um,
welcome, sir.
so, by the way, this whole sketch is like an hour long, and this part is 20 minutes. So,
Okay.
strap in. I promise you it's good. Saf laughed.
Yeah, I did.
So, I find my surname really redundant. You'd think it was because it was frequently mispronounced, but it's not. I love my surname. I wouldn't change it if I wanted to. Certainly wouldn't change it for any man. Really big fan of the double barrel surname, actually. It's a strong surname. It means the most gracious. In fact, it's a name of God, Allah, so I've had this God complex for a while. I've been blaspheming since the day I learned to spell. But I am sick and tired of coming across Pakistanis and Bangladeshis and other people from the subcontinent with my surname. I think any Begum, Chowdhury, Ahmed, Khanom, and Mia could possibly relate to that. Anytime I meet a brown person from a Muslim background and I hear one of those surnames, I'm immediately unattracted to them for that one reason. What if they're related to me? I have family members that share those surnames, and I don't want to perpetuate the same stereotype my parents did when they married their cousin. I'm sorry. Is this all making a lot more sense now? But I will say this, I have been attracted to several brown people, and I've realized that I would find it hysterical if I ended up dating someone with the same surname as me. We'd go to fancy places, wear name tags, and people would ask, so is this your sister? Because of course they'd ask the man, and I could promptly say, how dare you? We aren't hillbillies. This is my partner. Get your stereotype straight. This is clearly my cousin.
That's a good one.
And if he got married, that would be even better. If we got married, that would be even better. I could have a redundant double barrel name, Rahman, or even better, Rahman. No one would be able to spell it, pronounce it, and no one would be able to contain their laughter. I would love to steer right into that skid mark. And then we'd hear all the questions. Was it arranged? Ha! You really don't know me as a person. If I had agreed to an arranged marriage and had mutant children from what would inevitably be an incestuous union because Bangladeshis are so fucking tribal, I would still have a family. The unfortunate truth is that my family would rather I be battered in my own home and spawn babies with frog's legs and 7 different eyes that they share between them than see me have independent thoughts for myself and make independent choices for my future. I can hear the critics already. That's culture, that's not Islam. Show me your face and I will put a mirror to it and show you a liar. Culture and religion influence each other. Saying this is a thing is one and not the other is a non-argument. There are 2 aspects to the term culture. One is arts, food, clothing, and music. And the second is absolute fucking bullshit in the form of beliefs and practice based on those beliefs. One of those things has to change. I'll let you decide which one I think should be thrown into a volcano to save us all, much like virgins were to appease gods that fell out of the sky. It's not Islam, it's culture. Okay, true or false? Islam allows you to marry your own cousin. True or false? Islam holds arranged marriages as a superior kind of marriage. These things don't have to be recommended by God for sick fuckers to take advantage of. They just have to be allowed for them to be exploited, and boy has the subcontinent exploited both of those things. True or false? Our communities are deeply racist. When I was a teenager, I would do one thing that would drive my mother crazy. When people would ask me where I was from, I would say Indian. And I would hear the same lecture over and over again about how we're not Indian, we're Bengali. And I would still identify as Indian because of 3 reasons. 1, I didn't want to keep having the what's Bangladesh conversation. 2, I considered Bangladesh, India and Pakistan to be the same. And 3, it gave me a rare opportunity to spend some quality time with my mother. I'm the eldest of 6. Sometimes I just wanted some attention from mum. I've had 2 great arguments with my mother. The minor one was about Islam's teaching for parental dominion, and the second was when she found tweezers in my room and assumed I was plucking my eyebrows. I wasn't, again. She just wanted an excuse to spend some time with me, and arguing was our way. And by the way, plucking your eyebrows is strictly forbidden in Islam. Like, God has nothing better to do than be the fucking fashion police. But the biggest argument I ever had was on the subject of marriage. Now, I was a crazy kid. I had been saying to my mother that I wanted to be married since I got my period at 11 because a certain someone in Islamic history thought that that was an acceptable indication for ready for lifelong servitude to a grown man who could possibly shatter your ovaries with a single thrust of his penis. Don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. People have died for drawing him. The other reason I was obsessed with wanting to send some sick fuck to prison is because my family talked about marriage like Americans talk about freedom. Marriage was this magical place where I could get a pony and eat food from McDonald's. It was the American dream, and because my mother fell victim to the exact same system, she didn't discourage that ridiculous fantasy. I guess she thought my childish understanding of her personal hell was good for me. I don't know. So we were arguing because I had asked her what she would think if I married a Pakistani. Now, I've seen my mother angry. I'm no stranger to Bengali slurs, slippers, and wooden spoons, but she got psycho killer angry. She went really quiet. She went full Liam Neeson and asked, "Who's the boy?" Like she was going to hunt him down and gut his parents. And there was no boy, there wasn't. My mother just assumed the worst, always. And to her, this was the worst. I can see you all judging me. I dressed up like a letterbox. Every time my brother saw me, he would faint or scream expecto patronum. I assure you, there was no boy. I was too busy scaring all the muggles in my neighborhood. So I have to reassure her that there is no boy by screaming because we both love the drama. And we were outside, by the way. We were in our garden hanging out the laundry, and the whole of Wembley could hear 2 Bengali women cussing the fuck out of each other and Pakistanis. It was fun for me, but my mother was deadly serious. She asked me a question and thought she really had me. Like, she asked me this question like it was going to blow my little birdshit brain. She went, "If you marry a Pakistani, what is he going to eat?" And to her surprise, I immediately went, "Food?" And she lost her shit. She shook me like this was dire information, life-saving knowledge. Like the world was ending and she had the key to salvation and said, "Pakistanis don't eat food. They eat chapatis."
Wait, okay, I need to know, how much of this is, like, real?
All of it.
Oh my god.
All of this is real.
Wait, this is a real experience you've had with your own mother?
Yeah. This was a real argument she made.
Wow.
That's what makes it funnier.
That's what makes it
That's fine, not food. Wait, what am I missing here, mate?
What?
What am I missing here? I thought chapatis were food this whole time. My life is a lie.
Yeah.
My mom, like, she was willing to throw chapatis under the bus to prove that Pakistanis don't eat food.
Oh my.
I eat food, thank you.
I started dying laughing. I was floored. I couldn't help it. She got so upset, she dumped the laundry onto me and didn't talk to me for 3 days. She was so mad, and it never wasn't funny, except when I told my other family members, and they looked at me like I shat in her curry. So I decided to make it even worse for me, as is my custom. And I asked my grandmother what would happen if I married a black guy.
Jeez.
One of my aunts instinctively moved away from me as if this aging 70-year-old woman was just going to jump me. And she said one of the most racist things that I have ever heard back then as a child before I joined Twitter. And I'm terrified of repeating this, by the way. I'm terrified of it being chopped and me being painted as a racist. But since being called a vile homophobe and an English sodomite within 18 hours of each other, I have to say I enjoy the drama. So I asked her, what would happen if I married a black guy? And she said, "Why? So you can miscarry a bunch of monkeys."
Yo.
I know. And it wasn't just my family. I went to an Islamic school, and when I took these stories to my friends, they would sit there nodding like it was normal. This othering and racism permeates through our communities, and I have very rarely seen it addressed. Now, I can't vouch for my grandmother. She's honestly quite a vindictive woman, and I don't think there's much to excuse her except for the fact that she's a dinosaur. It's too late for her to change, and she doesn't want to. But with my mother, I don't know. My mother was a woman who would discipline my siblings by saying that if they didn't go to bed on time, the black man next door would get them. And and then, and then,
Oh my god.
and then would send that same guy and his family food every night in Ramadan because they were lovely people. She would say that she would never let me marry a Somali, and then we would go to their mosques and eat biris and basto with moss like we were one of them. She was the kindest person I knew, and everyone knew her, loved her, because she was someone who always put others first. But the things that would come out of her face about groups of people were fucking crazy. So taking this all into consideration, it makes sense why our toxic, racist families would just want us to inbreed. It makes sense that they've just grabbed that incest bull by the horns and just fucking ran with it. It's tragically toxic. And that's the end of the bit.
Wow.
That was good.
Well, that's
That was relatable
Wow.
for me.
Yeah,
Well,
there's-
It's
because
that all of that was actually said.